What is up? What is up? It is another Tuesday, another episode of The Boyd. Got Seprock Beats on the beats. Actually, we transitioned to another song. Hope they don't mind. I'm not going to say anything. Alright, so I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty. Sorry if you can't hear the audio or whatever. Just give me whatever feedback you can on that. Just funky stuff going on. Thank you for joining. It looks like we have a couple folks already watching. What is up? Out of the billions of folks on this planet, you are tuned in. Very unique. That's really cool, right? All right, so let's take a look at what we got. Got a few folks on. Thank you again. Who is on with us? Michael Weingartner. What is up? Sounds good. Oh, awesome. Excellent. And we have Cat's Not My Name. What is up? Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so controversial topic. Um, Hold on, I didn't really prep. You know, this thing. I hate to call it a show. I really just want to talk about stuff. So I mean, yeah, I guess I could probably prep for a discussion or whatever. But you know, some of the stuff sort of off the cuff. I was looking at Instagram today, which I really don't spend a lot of time on social media anymore. I feel like my time is too like expensive in a way. I've got too much other stuff to do with my time anymore. I've decided. And I realized how much of a time suck it was. I was arguing with people, and you know, I'm testing ideas, so I sort of think of it as like, you know, it's good for development, sort of, and I'm probably leaving a trail of like broken China shop dishes and stuff with my bull analogy here, as far as my social media presence. Though folks have reached out to me and thanked me for my social media presence for being sort of this jerk in a world of jerks that has, except I don't want to say my virtue signal flag is my virtue signal coat of arms matches some other people, maybe, I don't know, but they see what I'm doing in the battlefield and they're like, oh, okay, this person's an ally. So that's really cool. But at the same time, it takes a lot of freaking time, and you end up being really it ends up being really repetitive. I don't know if you have similar experiences. Let me know. I mean, I was just about to have one with the ACLU, or maybe I am. I don't know. I haven't even checked. Like that's what I'm like. Here's what I've got this bad habit now, as far as social media, where I'll like jump onto some discussion, whatever it is, and I'm only sporadically on. Like I'm maybe on Twitter once a quarter, and I'll go and troll like 10 accounts and say some shit I don't even know, and then I'll check back. I don't have any all notifications, everything are shut off, and then I'll like check it and see what the fallout is like a quarter later, like 3 months later. And you know, I feel like I'll go say some stuff, and it's not gonna be that good or bad or anything unless I hear about it at some other, you know, some other way outside of Twitter. Then I know, like, oh shit, I made it. If I've heard about it outside of my own Twitter presence, etc. I don't know. You guys tell me what kind of stuff that you guys have run into. Have you had a um, what's it called? Like experience online, like um, that kind of stuff. Hold on. Uh, I'm trying to find this ACLU post that sort of triggered this episode. And I'm not using triggered in in a okay, here we go. I think this is it. Oh snap. Oh, here's mine. I wonder if anyone said anything. Nobody liked it, I don't think. It's sort of controversial, but I'm not looking at this as a left or right wing thing. I'm just sort of looking at it as this sort of like a thing we got to really think about here. I wonder if anyone replied. I haven't seen anything yet. I put sort of a long response. This is a complex issue, so let me see if I can figure out how to share the screen. Someday, this discussion format or whatever we're talking about and how we're talking about it is going to inspire the live producer person who out there in the world um, will help me do some live editing because I suck at this. My brain's not good at. I mean, maybe I'm just telling myself. All right, here we go. Here we go. Bam. Hopefully you guys can see this. All right, so breaking. A federal court has blocked the Idaho law banning transgender student athletes. This is a victory for all women and girls in Idaho. Trans people belong in sports. No doubt. I agree with this notion that trans people belong in sports. Sure, that's true. However, I feel like we still have to cross the sort of material reality bridge of this idea that there are, in general, average physical differences between men and women, even within weight classes, etc., and that it becomes a really weird dance to try to work against sort of what amounts to evolutionary pressure. So this is what I said. It's like, man, that's problematic. I mean, I think this whole situation is problematic, right? Evolution and genetics created genetics created therein doesn't consider woke, quote unquote, woke social structuring when structuring actual flesh and blood in material reality. Ideology is walking people down a convoluted path. It's a slippery slope to demand participation or acceptance of ideology simply because the existence of vocal proponents. Trans people obviously exist in material reality. The ideological motivations to include them in everything for the sake of inclusion is tantamount to normalizing pedophilia as a natural occurrence, normalizing participants due to their claimed derivation from natural processes. Should they be included as well in society, not sports? Some may argue that pedos are bad because they engage those without choice or wherewithal to resist. This is true. They, pedos, will call this phenomenon quote unquote nature. Those who resist inclusion of trans, more specifically transitioned males, due to physical differences in material reality, unaddressed by ideology, will be excluded or lambasted as transphobic. In some ways, they have no power or choice, no power of choice, and no wherewithal to resist participation therein. In essence, they are forced to engage in an activity a certain way with people they may not feel compelled to compelled to due to material factors, or not to participate at all. There's a better way to go about this, is what I said. I don't know. I didn't see any marked replies, and it's sort of a lengthy, rambling response, I have to admit. However, I believe that we're looking at what's it called? A very nuanced and complex issue. So it's a nuanced and complex thing. Now, one thing I don't want people to confuse is I'm not likening trans people to pedophiles per se. This is a hyperbolic metaphor on purpose. It's purposely sort of making this ad absurdum, an absurd a juxtaposition of the absurdity, but it echoes of the same arguments, is what I'm saying. It's cocooned in the same arguments, in the same sort of structure as what the pedophiles say. Like, hey, it's my natural urge to have sexual relations with children, right? And it's their sort of natural um, brains to be vulnerable to my urges, and so because otherwise nature would have, created uh, defenses in the, human child to work around that or something. They'll twist it however they want, and I'm sure that there's ways that you could say within, and there's a lot of skepticism recently, or forever, I don't know, about A lot of the ways that some psychiatric conditions and psychology in general uh, amounts to like what a condition is versus what, I mean, all sorts of stuff. So now I'm not a scientist, etc., but it seems like even within the sphere of that discipline, there's a lot of argument over what is considered uh, either mental quote unquote condition, what is not, what does that mean? You know, those kinds of things. What is part of the quote unquote normal or natural human condition? You know what I mean? Like so because we statutorily claim through statute and law that there's a limit on when we agree that we should or shouldn't engage in sexual activity, right? That is a way of corralling nature. You see what I mean? And we've accepted that in society. So I'm a proponent of that. I think that humans, as we look at issue by issue, not whether something's left or right. I've heard it. I even saw people on YouTube and different places, or even here, sort of talking about different movements within uh, the political sphere, like libertarians, etc., moving quote unquote left because they were proponents of equal rights for black people, like they supported BLM, for instance, which really is they were they were lambasting libertarians, saying that they were moving left, and I'm like they are helping or supporting people who are protesting against the actions of a tyrannical government or the agents of a tyrannical government, which supposedly libertarians are all for that. But then we see that there's a conflict there with certain people who think that that's a lefty thing. You know, even though, and I keep harping on this, especially on my online presence, I harp on this fact that the FBI, through the Department of Homeland Security Counterterrorism, published in 2006, so that's 14 years ago, published a warning, a whole notice that white supremacists were infiltrating law enforcement. They're actively infiltrating law enforcement in order to learn tactics and in order to embed themselves not only, well, basically through all ranks of law enforcement so they can wield power and discretion through material reality, basically. And do whatever they want to do. I mean, look, they're the ones that declared themselves already white supremacists. That's their ideology. That at least I don't know what exact structure or exact methodology. I mean, they blocked out a lot of it. A lot of the report is redacted, but they I don't know exactly how they confirmed that they were white supremacists. It is they mentioned some stuff about personal data and research, but as far as going into at length of how they actually confirm white supremacist leanings and what the extent of what that meant, right? Anyway, that is happening via the government, right? So libertarians, if they are true to their ideology, should be supporting Black Lives Matter, right? But there's uh, some group of conservatives who are saying that they are now lefties for supporting Black Lives Matter, right? So it begs the question, what is left and right in their view, right? Because these literally, I mean, these same people, I guarantee, were pro Clive Bundy or whoever, allowing their cattle to graze and taking over a federal building in retaliation, right? And now Black Lives Matter are like, hey, they're basically, I mean, it's not even a direct response to learning about the FBI report. It's that was suppressed by Congress, by the way. It's probably why, I mean, you hear about it in media a little bit, but I think it was like released through FOIA in 2011 or something. But I mean, the conversations died down. Here we are in the midst of Black Lives Matter really building up. and making massive protests through George Floyd. We see all of these things happening, and for 14 years, law enforcement has been knowingly infiltrated, unmitigated to my knowledge. You tell me if there was a counter white supremacist movement or counter white supremacist call from Congress or any other governing body to change anything. Anyway, do you see what I mean? I don't know. I digress. Why are you talking about this? This isn't, again, it's not about left and right. It's about the issue itself. And, it's interesting. I've seen snippets of Joe Rogan discussing this. He brings up a good point about this fact that these trans women, folks who were once male transitioning to female, aren't fighting to compete in male sports, like on the male side of things. It was one thing when you saw women fight against the odds to join the male team and be like, you know what, fuck off. I'm a woman. I'm strong. I'll battle you on your own turf. And that has a glory bit to it because you're fighting. I mean, this female is fighting against any biological sense that she is disadvantaged to the male, and even if she is, she's fighting against it. Wow, that's a Herculean task. But now you see the opposite notion of this once male at some point in their development, right? And that's another variable. Performance enhancing drugs aren't allowed, but how about performance enhancing growth development prior to transition? Is that, I mean, I know that sounds like really, so you think people are transitioning just because of their want to win a medal? No, I'm not saying that, but it could be something that someone could be like, you know what, I could postpone my transition for a year so I could win the gold medal, and then, or postpone my hormone therapy, or this or that, or whatever. I don't know. I don't, but there is a physical difference, and by definition, because we're talking about sports and athletes, it's something that is body centric as far as competition. If it was something like, I don't know, like there's women's like there, to me there shouldn't be women's league like racing, car racing, or even motorcycle racing. I mean, maybe motorcycle, maybe, but even then, I mean, whatever. Women, if they could control the bike and whatever, they're lighter, they should actually be better at motorsports. So they should just have motorsports categories, period, based on the car, and they just do it. You know what I mean? And maybe they do. It's at this point, it might not be broken down by gender. It's just simply the race brackets. I think. I mean, what's her name? Danica Patrick was competing. It wasn't in like female or male. It's just racing. If we could have more of these gender neutral kind of things going on, sure. But if we're talking about track, I don't know. Maybe there's some. I in my I don't know, my perception of the male evolution of humans versus female evolution of humans, that males in general have more of their body dedicated to athletic pursuits. It's just biological conditioning. I mean, not that women can't work against that and use that to their advantage to some degree, but it's just the constructions are different, and the way of a lot of these contact sports is different. Like if wrestling, I mean, that's like you have to have female and male, right? Basketball, I feel like you have to have female and male. It's just a different type of activity that favors one gender over another. Like for instance, here I'll show you how remind me. I want to show you an example of how trans inclusive I am. Totally trans inclusive, right? But with conditions, right? You're not allowed to do certain things in our society, even if you want to in your heart of hearts and you're driven by nature or your brain, whatever is your genetics. You could say it's whatever, but there's certain things you're not allowed to do. If you got a super strong, I mean, and everything weird, all these weird conversations. Why they gotta be so sex centric? Why do we gotta be so centered around that? Well, part of that is because in physical reality where we live, like in the shared universe, not in the universe of ideas, but in this universe of, yeah, I am competing against you in this span of time, this little window of time in which I exist in the universe to compete against other people and show my mettle against other people. I want to be on a playing field where, yeah, it's a genetic roll of the dice to some degree, but to some degree it's that we, it's effort, etc. And to have someone who has a different roll of the dice and they get to change the roll a little bit, that to me is a little tricky. I mean, I don't know. I think you're opening a big philosophical can of worms. My problem with it was ACLU was so certain in their victory that it was worth pointing out that there is a lot more nuance to this, that a victory is only superficial at best when we start talking about this, because you're really you're talking about a situation where you are having to look away from what's really happening and upholding that, and there's a there's a question that has to come up now in society about how do we treat each other, about how we feel about this. You know what I mean? All right, let's see what we got going on. Superfan Chris is on. What is up? Lauren Labrie is on. What is up? Um, let us see here. What thinking person would advocate for not corralling nature? Yeah, I mean, look, we got to corral nature to some degree. You still, and I don't know. We do it all the time. We corral nature all the time, but we still have some things we can't totally control. You have to work around those things, right? You corral it. You don't get to completely control it, though. You can sort of keep it in these boundaries, but it doesn't mean you completely tamed it. You know what I mean? It's sort of the situation that we're in. So we have to have discussions about how do we talk about this, or how do we tame it? What level do we tame it? Like, for instance, eugenics is a way of taming nature, but it's also philosophically going down some dark tunnels, right? So we got to watch out along those lines. All right, cat's not my name. I mean, if we want to go that far, just make a trans league. Okay, I was thinking that too. Hey, look, culture has changed. I think it's just like UFC when or MMA, right? When the idea of women fighting first came out, a lot of people were like, "Nah, guys are just gonna want to see tits and want to see tight uniform, whatever. It's gonna be slap boxing and whatever." And then these girls came out like knocking each other out, and their teeth are missing, arm bars breaking each other's arms. Like, it's more intense than watching the dudes. There were heavyweight fights getting boring. These girls come out and they are ripping and romping, and they are throwing down technique. It is a chess match just like any other match. It is up at the top, upper echelon of competition. Wow. Right? Start a league. Go do it. There is no way Ronda Rousey's going in there fighting dudes. It's just not happening. You know what I mean? It's just like same weight class. It doesn't matter. No, anyone would tell you that's just not a good idea. Now, she did say she wanted to fight Floyd Mayweather and some other stuff. I think that was just some jibber jabber to get some publicity. No such thing as bad publicity, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? All right, cat's not my name. She goes on. Even if a man transitioned to female, in a lot of cases, she is a lot bigger, more athletic than other ladies. Not a fair game. All right, cat's not my name. If you can't take hormone in the form of steroids, hormones in general should be outlawed in sports. Okay, yeah, and really, your hormone therapy is a very malleable um, thing. You know what I mean? And again, it's this roll of the dice. That's sort of the cool thing about sports. That's been part of the pure, I think, aspect of sports. That's why people don't like cheaters in sports. They don't like to hear later on that someone did something. They feel cheated, like I gave you my support. I mean, what's the point of sports if you aren't to support someone for doing something that has merit to it, and you find out that it isn't all that it's cracked up to be? It sort of deflates that. But I don't know. Let's see what we got out there in the world. All right, Lauren says, but doesn't your size matter in auto racing? Smaller the better. Wouldn't that give women an advantage? No doubt, no doubt. But they are willing to say, hey, you know what? Whatever. The dudes, I guess you could say, really, the guys are saying, hey, bring it on. I don't care if you're lighter. Yay. Now, to be fair, if they did want to be stickler punks about it, they could always add weight to her car. I mean, you know what I mean, to even it out, which they do sometimes in some racing. And it's generally not because of the driver though. So don't get me wrong. It may be because of class rules. So maybe they made the chassis or different things so light because of technology, and sanctioning bodies are like, you know what, screw it. You're not allowed to be that. There's no advantage to being lighter, so stop making your car less safe is what they're trying to get at, I think, usually with these sanctioning bodies in official racing. All that being said, I don't think the guys care that the girls have an weight advantage and still the women aren't doing it. I don't know why. I think it's social conditioning personally. I think women could be killer at it. They got good instincts. They got good balance. They got good coordination. All of these things. It's just, I don't know. They're steered away from cars and different things. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not really into watching auto racing anyway, so I don't know. It's fun to do. It's very expensive. I don't know. I don't know. Just they don't care. All right. Cat's not my name. So if you're using hormones in whatever way, then you're just no go. Size isn't everything in racing. Lighter can cause problems too. Smaller people have a harder time controlling motorcycles, for example. Yeah, that could be. That's why I was wondering about motorcycles. It's a meh big. I mean, here's a big thing. A lot of motorcycles are made for the size of a male, which biologically is bigger on average than a female. So literally a couple inches different in the ride height on the seat, especially on a sport bike, with the way that the center of gravity works out, with the way that the driver's position is, etc. They literally may not be able to touch the ground without a lot of customization or loss of padding or other things as far as machinery goes. But those things can be accounted for. But again, it's the demand for the female size motorcycle within all these different engine classes, etc., is just not there because women simply aren't motorcycle racing anyway. But it is a little trickier for a woman, especially small woman. If you have a relatively short inseam, it's very difficult for you to sit on a motorcycle, especially a sport bike, and you not be on your tippy toes, if not completely unable to really control the bike except for hobbling peg leg style on one side or another. All right. But usually you're riding anyway. You can actually get help from your crew to overcome almost pretty much all of these things can be overcome, however. So by the way, women out there, if you want to be motorcycle racers, you can overcome all of these things. These are very, very minor issues that you can fight against. In fact, you probably can, if you had a crew, they could probably help you as you come in. You're not really at a situation where you're stopped holding the bike like you're in traffic or something. You're racing. But it could be sort of dangerous. All right, so Superfan Chris, there are some amazing female race drivers breaking barriers for sure. Yeah, and it shouldn't even be a barrier. They should just be doing it. Like they can do it. Like as of a long time ago, they should have just been taken over. They don't. I don't know. Maybe that's female biology in the brain. I don't know. I don't want to get all controversial and all that mess or whatever. I'm not saying that brain biology is different or favors one thing or another. I'm just saying it could be. Maybe you guys know something I don't. Okay, Michael W. I don't see what would be wrong with Trans League. I don't either, but they want to be inclusive everywhere. You don't want to be discriminated against and doobie doobie because it can get sort of dangerous and weird. I guess, sure, yes, but at the same time, I think people in general are pretty inclusive. If there were trans people, like for instance, if there was a trans woman, right, a transitioned male to woman, who wanted to play football on the men's team, I bet, yes, they would get probably some razzing and some other stuff, but whatever they needed to do, if they needed to go do stuff in the girls' locker room instead, whatever, I'm sure it could work out. You know, I mean, the girls are really the ones that are gonna have to deal with that, right? I mean, and then they could, and then on the field, the guys would be dealing with that. Okay, that would probably work. I think that there's more and more guys be like, yeah, whatever, I don't care, but as long as they block, or as long as they catch the ball, or as long as or she's a good quarterback. Like, there's girls competing in guy sports already, so it's like trans woman, transitioned woman can play, I'm sure, and be accepted. I feel like there's just this almost need to be the banner waver for some movement or something. And it's just not, I don't think that, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's a distraction, maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, it's important for trans people, but I think there's an overall consciousness that's sort of unfolding anyway. But there's also a deconsciousness unfolding at the same time. That's what I'm afraid of too. That's probably the bigger issue. Is there's this wave of consciousness with this yang or yin or yang. I don't know which one's which, but there's this counter wave of unconsciousness, happening. And I think that's sort of the fear which makes this sort of like there's extreme ends to that wave, and I think this is one of them. It's just one of those things where it's like, we're just in such a sort of sensitive area, sensitive time about inclusivity because we've gone through a grand phase of exclusivity for so long, and the pendulum is swinging to some degree. This is an evident of a pendulum swing, and maybe it's going too far or too myopic or too narrow-sided, I don't know, but it's something along those lines. I don't know, something like that. Okay, so Superfan Chris says, so the men who transition female and they're still 6'4", 220, and the women who transition to male are 5'7", 145 in the same league. How in the world would they regulate that and make it fair? Hey, you know what, Superfan Chris? There you go. That therein brings up the whole argument. Let them. I don't want to say them, right? But just like a women's league, UFC or MMA, there would be a men's league. In a men's league, let's do a trans league. Fine. Now you hash out how that works. You know what I mean? Don't make us hash out how that works. And like I said, I would address some of y'all's talk. That's some good points. That's good point. I mean, that's a mirror reflection right there. Yo, what if we had a trans league? Do you think it's fair that these people are, whoever, just competing? Is it going to be based on weight? Is it going to be based on size and weight? Is it going to be based on volume? Like, what's it going to be? You know what I mean? Density? I mean, what is this? What's the nuance going to be? What is the size category? Or are we going to ignore size category? You know what I mean? You bring up a really good point, Superfan Chris. If we're going to structure this league, how would that work out of idea reality, like imagination or ideological reality? In material reality, you have transitions all over the place happening. What is going to happen in this league of football players, of rugby players, of track stars, of wrestlers, or of whatever we're talking about that's making such a big stink? You know what I mean? All right, so Superfan Chris, great commentary, guys. Yeah, see how cool? Look how many ideas we're talking about. Some cool stuff. Look, what did I tell you? I told you I was going to tell you how trans inclusive I am. Look at this. I would be fine. This is what I would be fine with. Okay, fine. Catch me if I'm wrong. This is why we have this show. Catch me if I'm wrong. I would be fine with a Taiwanese, whatever, not Taiwanese, excuse me, Thai lady boy. I think the lady boys are in Thailand. Oh, interesting. Um, okay, sorry, I was distracted momentarily. But yeah, I would be fine with one of these ladyboy folk guys, you know. I think they're trans. I don't know if they transition or not. I don't know. I don't know that much about ladyboys. But if they were trans, if if they are or were or in the transition of it or whatever, if they won like a pageant, like Miss America pageant, hey, all power to you. You overcame the odds. You do it all day, hombre, right? But on the other and on the other hand, a female to male transition competing in male sports. Okay, okay, let's do it. That, and even if you win and whatever, okay. And maybe, I mean, the hormone thing, let's cross that bridge. I don't know. Let's talk about it. I don't know much about the hormone treatments. That to me is a huge other can of worms, because that can all be different, and that can be massaged by whatever sports trainer or whatever criteria, excuse me, the sanctioning body of whatever sport or thing that we're talking about. It can be gamed, you know, game theory. Come on, everything's gonna be gamed. All right. So superfan Chris said extremely lopsided. Cat says it would have to be a trans men's league, a trans women's league. Stick with the gender you've moved to. See, that's right. So that's where things stick to the gender you've moved to. Right. And so then Superfan Chris says, okay, that makes sense to have two separate leagues. Right. So we end up going back circle to this other definition of like, so then, you know, it's like, I, I don't know. Why don't they just compete in the men's league? Like I don't know why just in the females can compete in the female leagues as with a mustache or something. Like what is the big like? Is it just that the fit to be? What's the definition of this thing to be compete as a male or as a female in this? Like, is it because you have the genitalia? Is that the physical differentiation? I mean, the Idaho law that the ACLU overturned. This is the danger, right? Though on the counter argument, right? Think about this. This is where it becomes weird, right? Let's say, yeah, no, let's not have male trans to female compete and da da da. And then it's like, well, how do you enforce that? Like now per the law, it's like anybody can call into question whether or not you were born a certain way, and you have to physically prove that under examination to prove to other people whether you are or aren't in. You know what I mean? They're like gonna see by proxy. They're like gonna check your shit out and see and make a determination. You know, it just seems like a weird, like humans. Come on, there's got to be a better way to do this shit. Come on, what? The fuck? I don't get it. I feel like there's got to be a better way to do this shit. Help me out. Help me understand this. All right. What else we got? Exactly. Two separate leagues. Only way to make sense. Girls to move to guys' sports, trans or regular. There are disadvantages, right? Whole size, athleticism-wise, definitely kind of a double standard. But the women, for the most part, are just not going to stomp the men like would women. Kat said it would be like if I kicked James' butt at basketball, people would be impressed. If James beat me, people would view it as unfair fight. No, you'd probably beat me. I'm really terrible, actually terrible at basketball. I love it. I do. It's sort of something that pains me a little bit, actually. But it's something I'm also reconciled with. It's like, I don't know, like if I want, okay, so Idaho's Idaho's law was being challenged by the ACLU on behalf of, I think, I'm pretty sure, at least according to this Vice thing that I watched, which I sort of half trust. Excuse me, I'm trying to, I always have these most uncomfortable chairs. But I got to stay by the mic. Oh yeah, so it's a, okay, so the situation is a woman has now wants to, you know, a trans woman wants to compete in the woman's track thing, and the women that are in the track competition don't want her to participate because she was a man once. And ACLU overturned that, but at the same time, it's sort of like, yeah, how do you enforce this stuff? It gets really weird, and um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and at the same time, I'm like, why? Why do you have to make this big stink? Go run with the, just go run. I don't know. No, I'm a woman, so okay. But there's something going on here. It's like, yeah, but there's just, like, I really want to play basketball. I feel really awesome playing basketball, but I suck at it so bad. I suck at it so bad that I can't even like really practice. It's worth time. It's waste of time. It's something that I've sort of learned to let go. And it's okay with me because there's so many other things I'd rather do. If someone said, you know what, James, here's a big chunk of time to go learn, and I'll even send you to a basketball like camp to where you can learn how to play basketball. I'm like, I'm not interested at all in doing that. I've like, why? I don't want it. No, I just don't want it. Now I don't want to, you know. And back when I did play a little bit, or even if I tried, maybe there's a flair for a moment that I might sort of enjoy it, but it's like, it's not worth that will, skill, and time to get to any level of proficiency where I'd feel like I want to do it on a regular basis. There's other things in the world I would rather do, right? Why can't other people look at some things like that and look, if you're called to duty, then find something where you're having to climb a hill bigger than everyone else or something like that. The woman who wants to play in the men's league, fuck that. I'm playing the men's league. I don't need no tiddlywinks girl league. Those bitches can't handle me. Okay, yes, you're climbing the big hill, right? Or like, hey, I'm transitioned to dude. I'm gonna fight in the dude league. Okay, all right. Look, you're fighting against a biological uphill battle. I don't care. I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, amen. All right, and if you're a trans woman, right, then you should compete in the male league and be like, you know what, fuck it, I don't care if I'm taking female hormones and it's hurting my performance potentially, or that's what the doctors say and that's what the everybody says, but I'm gonna prove them wrong. Okay, yeah, then fine, do it. Or, hey, lady boy, you can't win the women's pageant. How are you going to make it through the swimsuit competition, huh? And then, bam, lady boy takes Miss Universe. Wow, what? That's uphill battle. Yeah, I was really a boy, and now I'm Miss Universe. I'm the trans queen. And yay, okay, hey, you climbed the uphill battle. You battled all these cis women and beat them at their own game. You know what? Hey, uphill battle. Do it. Work it, right? You know what I mean? That's the hero's journey kind of thing, or whatever. Like, there should be sort of like a valve where it's like, okay, yeah, these things don't equate. You can't be like a once male MMA fighter. It's just like, at what point do we stop your hormonal and male development? And just because you couldn't get your appointment at a certain time, and now you have developed into male body at a certain weight class or whatever it is we're talking about, now it's like, I don't know. But now, depending on certain people, the position that I just espoused will now be transphobic potentially, right? And now we have to be, we're sort of wondering, how is society going to treat that notion of, like, yeah, I'm either comfortable with the idea of transition folk, including transition males to female competition. is okay, and science be damned, and or science is proving that there's not that much of a total advantage or whatever. Okay, there's that crowd out there. But there's also the crowd of people that are like, yeah, let's talk about what's really happening in reality and the physical differences, and let's take that into account. Please, let's take that into account. And some people are saying that those people are transphobic for saying we should we or they, whoever, sanctioning bodies. I don't even care about sports. It's just a neat philosophical discussion. um what but anyway, it's going to determine sort of how these sanctioning bodies work, and also how schools work, right? School sports, especially school sports. These the ACLU a lot of times is working on how federal stuff, things with federal money and or potentially state money, um, get handled, right? So this affects a lot of people. Okay, let's see. Oh God, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on. I missed. Let's see what's happening here in the comments section. So thanks, guys. If there's anyone else that you know who wants to jump in on this, jump in on this, and let's talk about it. All right. Yeah, a lot back here. Um, let's see. Great comments, by the way. Okay, so I think it'd be easier to move for yes, okay, yes, we talked about that. Sorry, I'm lost in the comments. Lost in the sauce. Cat says, but you can essentially put your hand on my forehead and stop me in its tracks, and I'm like 5'2" on a tall day. Oh, yes. Right. So there are some physical limitations that come to play, that even if she was more athletic and or you know uh, well versed in the art of basketball, um, she would have to be at a disadvantage, and I could block a lot of shots just because I'm bigger. All right, so Superman Chris says, my question would be, is there actually that many transgender men and women who actually want to play sports? I don't think the numbers are even there. Right, I don't think they're a ton, but they exist, right? And let them be known. Yes, you exist, acknowledged. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a few. There's one in Idaho with this ACLU case, so there you go. All right. Lauren says, I've always had these most uncomfortable chairs. Oh, yeah, yes, it's very uncomfortable. I do. It's a trend. Sort of on purpose. That way I don't rant and ramble too long, because I have a tendency to blab forever. Kat said, in general, though, I will take the non-woke stance here and say transgender in general, just strange. You can't be born, quote unquote, something else. Your DNA says you're one thing, that's it. And, it makes me wonder, like, what does it really mean to be male or female in the sense of, like, other than size category and that kind of stuff, because sexuality isn't the deal. It's not if you're like I don't like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, your brain structuring might be different than your physical structuring. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. I, I can't. I mean, science. There's still so much to learn. But yes, DNA has a lot to do with a lot of things, including the way you think about stuff. A lot of, I mean, and then that also begs the question: how much of your thought process and your consciousness is your actual physical brain, and how much of it is like something more external, surreal, I don't know, ethereal? If not, I mean, I don't know. Like, you can take chemicals and psychedelics to alter your consciousness. You can like jiggle a piece of your brain and change who you are. It's essentially, we've seen this happen in different cases. So like what who are you? Are you what's in your brain? Is there something else out there? And then okay, so let's say whatever it is that you are, either your brain calculations in the mush between your ears, or it's like what? Like a quantum field that's emanating from someplace, and you have like receptors in your brain and you tune in into the consciousness, shared consciousness. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. You tell me. Everybody's got their own little shit from it. But at the end of the day, if that shit says you're man or woman and your junk says you're man or woman and they don't jive, that's, and then I'm not talking about like I'm a guy who likes guys. That's different. I'm talking about like, whoa, I'm supposed to be a woman. What the fuck is this thing? Or wow, I'm supposed, like, how do I even know you're supposed to be this or that? I don't know. And like, oh, I knew because I like to play with dolls, or like, but I mean, these are like social constructions that we've assigned to the, like, what if you were in like a different like structure of shit and girls played with trucks? Like, suddenly, what if because you played with trucks you should be a girl? Like, maybe maybe I don't know. I mean, people have different reasons, and I'm not saying they only did it because they played with dolls or this or that. I'm not saying that, so don't bring it to, like, a lot of times I see on like ACLU type places, I see the folks who are advocates of these things take it to like an extreme, and a lot of people are doing that because they don't want to have a real discussion because it goes against their ideology, and they don't like that. And there's a lot of ideologies bumping around. It's not a left or right wing thing. It's just a, hey, let's talk about this real deal Holyfield. You know what I mean? Should a woman go against Evander Holyfield? You know what I mean? If she wants to be a boxer, is there even a woman that could go against, that would meet the size requirement to fight against Evander Holyfield? You know what I mean? You know, like, some things just aren't the same. It's just not the same. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It seems obvious, but some folks, I don't know if they understand biology, or they're just around some real skinny dudes that are really weak, or they're around some women that are just really buff and like really big women, like dude women. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. So, Kat says you're just synthetically creating otherness. If if you want to dress and whatnot as opposite sex, those are your tastes, no judgment. Yeah. So dressing and whatever, but so trans inclusion in general in society, yay, yeah, whatever. But there's certain things that's like, look, you want to be a female wrestler, but you were a man once. Okay, hey, look, you got development as a man because of genetics that these other girls just don't have because of genetics. Like, they can't go and train for that. They can't change anything to make up for that. There's no grit and human endeavor that can make up for that. You know, it's just like that's what we're talking about, I think, when we talk about even a genetic, like, if we at least stick to some rules, right? Like, born women are playing against born women, born men are playing against born men. When we have these sort of, or transitioned men are against transitioned men, or transitioned women, or whatever you, I don't, whatever, we, I mean, we just, there's a reality to the difference, of biology, and whether you're woke or not woke, it doesn't matter. The reality doesn't matter. Inclusiveness doesn't matter. Um, and you just have, I feel like there's some folks that just have to let go of what they're trying to do. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is there something that you would do as a kid that you just might really like the doing as a kid that, like, you adults would just, you shouldn't do that as an adult? I mean, almost everything can be translated into adult level competition. I mean, whatever it is, out there. there's crazy level competition somewhere out there. But is there something at all? I'm just trying to think of something ridiculous like and you want to keep on competing against children or something like that. That would be in a way not really the same, but it's like you just gotta stop. It's like you don't get to do that anymore. I don't know. Or like when athletes have to hang up the towel, like, hey man, I can't keep it up anymore. I gotta retire. Yeah, it sucks. Sometimes it breaks their heart. It's like, look, if you are a male who transitioned to female and you really want to compete with the women, uh, you know, like run alongside, give them support or something. You know what I mean? Run with the men and show them who's boss. Is what I would say. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. But ACLU disagrees, and they fought for that. All right. Lauren says if they let trans men play in women's sports, it won't last. They will dominate so ridiculously that it will force them to address it and find better solution. Yeah, but Kat says, but drugs are not going to change your DNA. Michael W. says, Superfan Chris, the problem is if there's only a few, then it opens up for controversy. It's like banning them from the military. Superfan Chris says agreed uh, to Michael W. But the numbers for the amount of individuals who want to join the military are far more than those who want to play football, basketball, etc. Kat says if someone wants to go fight for me in the military, go ahead with your brave self. Yeah, I mean those kinds of things. Sure, but then we start to get to the point where we ignore like physical reality of I mean, well even then, it's like there's women that want to fight on the front lines and I mean they want to go and you know despite right not utilizing their physical size to an advantage. Despite their physical size, they are going and wanting to overcome this thing. That's a little different. A man transition to a female wants to fight for the military. Okay, if you can meet the physical standards, just like a female in the military meeting physical standards, and even then in the military they denote physical female standards as differentiated from male physical standards based on physical differences. So it's just something that we're at the ACLU and those guys simply aren't addressing, which I don't know that I feel like it's very fair that they're going through and just saying that this is a win-win-win when it's like, let's talk about this. This is sort of funky right now. All right. Superman Chris says, I agree they shouldn't be banned from serving the military. That's something I'm willing to volunteer for. It's honorable. It shouldn't be banned by any means. And Kat says, plus I thought they were so dangerous we couldn't be in the same bathroom as them. Don't you want them in the military? Aha. Indeed. Superfan Chris says, and this is coming from a military vet, sport thing is a stretch to me, especially thing. Women's Football League, Powerpuff League, NFL, WNBA, etc. Mike W. couldn't agree more. The argument is that hormones are all that make men stronger, so the female hormones that trans women at the same level as born women, which ignores the entire body structure. I think military objection to trans folk in the military is that they get full free health care for life. Um, trans folks in full free health. Well, I mean, I think everyone should be able to get basically TRICARE for life. Why not? You know, have government health. Excuse me, have government health insurance. You can still have private care through your private doctor, but have government health insurance to pay for it all, and sort of, you know, negotiate some of these prices. And we can work on that. We can come up with a situation where we can make that work. Um, but I don't know. I think one of the big military objections is that they don't like people don't feel like taxes should be used for transitional services. So let's say you join the military as a man, you want to transition to female, and now TRICARE is paying for your transition. I think that is a controversial point for some folks. Like, whoa, wait a minute, what this is, but then it becomes like, I don't know, some folks feel like it's a classist issue that, hey, what if I want to, make my trans dream come true and match my brain to my body and have my, junk match my brain. And, the only way I could do that is by joining the military to pay for it. Otherwise, I don't have a way to pay for it. And some people are like, well, there shouldn't be a way for you to pay for it because that's not something that you should be doing. Um, but some people are like, well, then I don't know. I don't know the situation enough to know about why there should be a justification to this, right? So maybe someone can explain that to me, perhaps. So please, if anybody, leave a comment as to what you agree or disagree with about on this whole thing. Um, all right. So what else we have here? As for women fighting on the front lines, if we meet same, not less for women qualifications, they go for it. Well, they meet women qualifications, which are lower standards than for men, and that's just how they do it. So women get to do less push-ups, and they get to do slower mile times and stuff like that. That's just, I guess, the women's movement won those amendments or qualifications. All right, Lauren says, and that is expensive surgery, hormones, even cosmetic procedures are paid for the taxpayers for life. Yes, so that's problematic. Some people, it's a point of contention. So I can understand that. I don't have the answers to that. I would love to hear some our arguments by the premier people in the game of the trans argument that's going on. I would love to hear from them. And let's see. I just haven't heard a good argument that's like, I don't know. I feel like there's some, I don't know. How do you know? How do you have this definitive knowledge, and what does that mean? I mean, I don't know. And maybe the way that they articulate it is bound by social norms. And that's how the only way they know how to articulate it is by using stereotypes, typical social norms to say, this is how I felt. And so, therefore, I need surgery to make me have a vagina and boobs. Or like surgery to make me have a penis and get rid of my boobs. And I want fake nuts. Right? Like, that is necessary, this manifestation in physical reality, that even though it's not real, it's like a constructed thing that someone has to construct and craft with their hands, right? And I'm not trying to belittle it, I'm trying to understand, you know what I mean? And I'm not coming from any malevolent point of view, despite what anybody might think, you know what I mean? Look, I mean, I don't know people. People can be pissed. They can be pissed. It's okay. Let's be pissed and talk about why we're pissed. That's the only way we get through this shit. Okay. Lauren says, oh wait, no, Kat says, same with like firefighters. I don't want some human who is my size to come and try to save me from a blazing fire because she passed the test by being 5 seconds slower than the big dude who could be carrying me out faster and more safely. No doubt. I don't know what to tell you. We have to take it up with some of that. Some of the women's movement, I think, is, I don't know. I think it had a good reason. There's a lot of contradictions that we're dealing with, many layers to the onion. We can't just say it one way or another, but there are some ramifications from the women's movement that did that. And so people might think I'm anti-feminist. I'm not. I mean, maybe I'm anti-feminist in that the feminists are why some of these things are the way they are. But I'm not at all anti-women's rights. I'm all for women's equality, 100%. I think women and men are advantaged and disadvantaged against each other based on context. And like Einstein says, you ask a fish to climb a tree, you would never know it's a genius in the water. Basically, I mean, I butchered that, but that's basically what he's saying. Your genius is relative to your context and what the universe has placed you to be here for. I mean, I don't know. Some people think that they're manifesting the future. I think that the better way to look at it, as Lao Tzu and the Tao look at it, is to walk through life without trying. To to how do you succeed without trying, right? How do you teach without speaking? How do you how do you move without walking? These weird things, but it's not in sometimes in some situations. I'm sure it's not literal discussion therein, but it's like sometimes we're striving so hard to fulfill something that we're looking for. And in the Tao, I'm not a Tao master by any means. I'm not even Taoist. I just read the Tao occasionally, just to see what kind of insights. Because I found so far that in general, Taoism explains the universe in a way that I can jive with. Right? There's no super being that's judging somebody for masturbating or something like that, or I don't, whatever the uber Christians and the Muslims and Jews and whoever the hell else that's all super religious and says someone's going to judge you for this or that, or is looking at you and watching you, right? There's none of that discussion in Taoism. And also, it explains so many things. Like, for instance, you know, how does it say for you to stop trying, yet explains and discusses sort of the means to becoming the greatest on earth, right? Like, whoever your most favorite athlete is, whoever your most favorite anything of any accomplishment of whatever it is. I mean, artist, it could be musician, it could be an engineer, teacher. I don't give a shit. Medical person, it doesn't matter. Home care person, mother, father. I don't. Whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter. Sometimes, sometimes people are just their best because they follow the flow state. Whatever they do without trying, whatever they can just. It's interesting. I was talking to actually Superfan Chris. We had a conversation about who was it? We were a basketball player. He was also in a little trivia, also in Bruce Lee movies. Damn it! Now I'm blanking out. It's so obvious. Superfan Chris, come on. His name is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I knew it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Right. So when you watch him on the court, somehow, some way, his brain controls this lanky ass praying mantis looking body, right? That on the court can control this ball with superhuman precision, like it's like with some superpowers, right? But then you see him in a movie with Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee is like, I've never seen him play basketball, but he probably can play basketball because he's just the master of whatever he does. But Bruce Lee is doing his moves, and he just looks like fluid, like the breeze going through the reeds, or like water going over rocks in a brook. Like, it's just fluid, right? And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar looks like the most awkward looking. It's like the praying mantis who got stuck in some like honey or something. Like, whoa, what just happened? To the like awkward, weird, like stiff, and like just doesn't look like the joints work. Weird, right? And I bet he would even admit it. And he's like, yeah, but it's fun as hell. I bet it was fun as hell. What an amazing experience, but weird, awkward. Whatever, just a different context. Right? It's just a different context. So his flow state isn't to go be a kung fu master at the end of the day, right? That's not the flow state. His flow state was to do what was without trying, and that was to be a basketball player, right? And so, what is it that you can do without trying? What is it that like I think a lot of these people are people who just, I mean, if they could really be exposed to the Tao and understand. I mean, you can't even say that. When I say the Tao, you can't. The Tao cannot be even said, right? If you read the Tao cannot be said, and even if you talk about the Tao, it's not the real Tao. It's just basically one way to make an understanding of it, and I think this is one interpretation that I think buttons it all up, is that the Tao is in a way the truth. That, and it's all truth of all things, of all events, of all occurrences, of all, like when the raindrop that you don't even think about, raindrops that hit the ground that you don't even know about in a place that you've never seen, and it permeates the earth, and it goes in between some roots, and it gets used by something, and all of this is happening. That's all the Tao. That's all truth. That's what's happening, right? So all that ever happened, all that ever is, all that will be is the Tao, right? And how do you describe what all that is? Every occurrence, every truth, every lie, everything ever, right? And that is the thing that exists. And that's one way to sort of talk about it. And because in the Tao it talks about, if you look ahead at the Tao, you will only see its back, and if you look back towards it, you only see its front. It's like it's always around and it's never there, right? It's in the deepest crevices in the highest heavens and whatever, and it's also not there. So I don't know, but whatever. If these people would find that, they would find their flow state. They would feel like, it's whatever. If you're a runner, then you're gonna just find the highest level of competition, and do that. You know what I mean? And it's not gonna be some fulfillment of, like, oh, my dream is to be the first transitioned woman to win a thing, or like I just want to win. I don't care that I'm have these advantages or whatever, physically or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. It's just even within the uh like gender specific things like MMA or anything else. There's some situations when you're in a class of your own where you just have no contender. There's no one that can physically match you, and you cannot be contended. That's just that exists too. So to me, this argument is like, for some reason, for some folks, there's this, I don't know, I guess in a way a privilege, or not a privilege, but just an expectation that their way be honored, I guess. Their will be honored. I don't know. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Superfan Chris says technically only retired members get free health care for life. Veterans get basic care from the VA. But it certainly doesn't include those types of surgeries, hormones, etc. Kat says veterans have a hard enough time getting some basic care, let alone anything wild like that. Yes, indeed. I was trans, big boobs. No one paid for my what? Trans, big boobs. No one paid for my dreams. Oh, yes. Okay, gotcha. Kat says, we are equal to men mentally and whatnot, but women are as a whole, not physically as strong. Nature, science, all of that. If that makes me anti-feminist, fine. LOL. I'm anti-feminist all day long. Yeah, okay. So, and I think we need to look at what feminism is, and what sort of vocal reactions are coming from that, because a lot of people are going to be accusing me of being a reductionist, of saying that I am reducing the presence of trans people in society and things like that by having this kind of point of view. And I would say I disagree. Again, they are diminishing the significance of me saying that I would be fine with a lady boy winning a women's pageant, right? I would be fine with a female to male transition competing in male sports, male dominated sports. That's fine. You have an uphill battle, but the other way around, a man competing as a woman in a physical sport, I don't feel like that's, I don't know. That's just to me a valve of just a physical thing that we, in a way, it's a physical check that we would place. Just like, I don't know, it's like we put different punishments on men for beating women than for women beating men. Because typically the severity of beating and the ramifications are different. The physical size and level of violence is different. Things are different and nuanced because humans are nuanced and different. I think it's better for us to take that approach. And yeah, if she wants to race in a league or race, then I don't know. I mean, she wants to race with the girls because she feels like she should be treated as a girl. Okay, but there's a truth to this story that you're just gonna have to deal with. It's like certain people just have to deal with certain truths. I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's you could be a woman who really wants to fight in men's MMA, and men may just say, no, we don't want to fight a woman because there's too much conflict of interest in weird situations. Like, what if the guy accidentally touches her boob or something while they're fighting, and he's afraid of that, and people have anxiety about that kind of thing. I don't know. Can they refuse? Do they have the right to refuse to participate with this woman in the league? Or do they have to include her in there and let her fight if that's what she wants? And if she gets wailed upon, is that acceptable or is that not acceptable? You just open up it's just Pandora's box. It's crazy. I don't know. I don't know. All right, yes, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, thank you guys for telling me all of that. And Lauren says that's why the people on the right side that's what the people on the right side are claiming. I'm not saying that, not my stand. Right, and it's not left or what right, and right-wing people claim one thing, and left-wing, quote-unquote left-wing, are supposedly claiming another. This is where I think there's a false dialectic, right? There's two different opposing sides. This is one of these concocted dialectics that will make us distracted right now. It's a very pertinent time for this. You'll probably see this on the news, Fox News making a big stink about it. This, I think, is a big distraction from a class issue that's about to hit everybody. There's a massive depression that's about to come. We have massive unemployment right now. I don't know, you tell me if manufacturing is coming back to America, but I don't think, we're already closing our doors to China. There's a lot of tariff stuff going on, a lot of tensions going on. And Americans are feeling like, hey, we don't want to do stuff with China. But at the same time, who's investing in America are the capitalists, basically the people with capital. Are they investing in America, or are they just sucking from the government's teat to stay alive during this time until there is a full-fledged collapse, in which case the CEOs and all of them, all of these people who aren't really attached to the corporate entity themselves, will take their golden parachutes, claim bankruptcy, default on all the bonds that they sold to the government, thereby taking the money that's already been given to them and then being forgiven a loan, that loan for the bond, and whatever their golden parachute was already getting written off, the assets of the company depleted by that salary amount, right? So now there's no assets for any shareholders anyway. They don't really care. Stock market crashes anyway. They already got their money. They went ahead and transitioned that to physical assets, either gold, or they might have put it into Bitcoin or anything else outside of the stock market, which will lead to the that's what's going to actually create the crash. They're going to make the moves. Then the regular investors are going to start seeing that. They're going to pull out of the market. That's going to exacerbate the problem. Market's going to crash. The already low consumer confidence is going to crash. The what do you call it? Paradox of thrift is going to set in, whereby people are going to be too afraid to spend money. Consumer confidence is going to drop, which is then also going to hinder manufacturing because no one wants to start manufacturing because they feel like no one wants to buy anything. And if no one wants to buy anything, no one's going to make anything, and no one's going to make anything, no one's going to hire anybody. Right, so now it's the paradox of thrift. The thrift has now caused us to fall further down into further economic despair. So these things, I didn't make these up. These are things that happen in macroeconomics. This happened after the Depression, or excuse me, after the stock market crash in 1929. The Depression didn't happen until like 1931, 1930, the end of 1930. It took some time, a ripple effect, the ripple of unemployment. We already have miles-long food bank lines. We have miles-long unemployment lines. People are desperate. People are looting. People are going to start robbing from each other. I'm surprised it hasn't broken down even further. The government, I don't know. Are they doing anything to help? You tell me. I don't think they are. These are things. I think this is a big distraction, but it's a distraction for middle America to seethe over while their economic freedoms and economic future are starting to crumble unless there's some type of revolution. And there will be either political revolution or hot revolution. The question will come soon enough. Soon enough. When American people get desperate enough, we will see. We will freaking see. I don't know. I just don't know. The Americans talk a lot of shit. Most of them are LARPers, as in live action role players. They are mostly fake. And if they're going to prove anything, they will prove it against powerless me and shoot me while I'm walking down the street to show me how strong they are and how boss they are. But they would never actually fight against a tyrannical government that's already acting against citizens right now, their own brothers and sisters under the Constitution, and they sit there and do dick. So I don't believe them. They're self-serving overall, but once someone says the boogaloo is on and they're killing liberals or whatever, they will find a way to identify you and kill you if you're liberal, or the vice versa. If these conservatives who already talked about killing liberals start killing so-called liberals who they've identified as liberals, people who now will identify as liberals or not identify as conservatives or whatever these people are, Trumpers or whoever these people are that are acting in violent ways, they may start retaliating depending on how militant they are, and they'll start fighting or shooting these people on the spot, or who knows. I don't know how this is going to go down. It sort of depends on how things go down. I don't know, but America is a powder keg. A lot of people have guns, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Do you think if America falls into that kind of chaos, will the rest of the world just sort of say no Americans allowed, or will the rest of the world fall into chaos as well? I don't know, but I think this whole trans thing is a distraction to try to get everyone bickering while something big is playing along. Not that it's orchestrated on purpose per se, but maybe. Do you think ACLU is government sort of tilted at all? I don't know. Anything is possible in the world we live in, at my um, in in my opinion, at this point. All right, so Lauren says, I disagree. You can predict someone's opinion by their vote. Yeah, I think you can, but I think a lot of that's manufactured. I think that we've been sort of led to believe one thing or another. Like, for instance, I'll tell you what, a key example of manufactured ideology, or not ideology, left-wing association or right-wing association, left-right association. the whole gun debate, right? The whole gun thing. Who says leftists are opposed to guns, right? The media says it, or some academics, maybe some people out there, right? Like, but who's leftist? Who's like the king of leftists? I don't know. You tell me, right? That word has lots of baggage. But like, let's say if we go to economic leftism, the leftist economics, farthest left would probably be Karl Marx, pretty far left economic politics, right? But very big armed working class proponent that the working class should always be armed and ammunition be available for the working class. All efforts uh, to stop this must be frustrated, he said, by force if necessary. By force, use force if they don't let you have your guns, working class, he said. Right? He's pretty freaking left. So why is there an association with leftists and anti-gun and right with pro-gun? So hardcore pro-gun on this like, cause you could be conservative economically and still say like, no, let's have gun control. And there's like this really hot trigger point about guns on the right. This, I truly believe this is a purposeful manufacturing of association, because the right-wing conservatives will uphold at practically any cost via their guns the status quo, and left-wing people a la Karl Marx are trying to change the status quo, change capital and labor relations, change the way profit is distributed in amongst enterprises, or within an enterprise, and how that relationship works, right? That people should be partners, for instance. As you can see, if I was going to be on a spectrum of politicians, if I was running, I would actually be technically and literally to the left of Bernie Sanders, right? Because I would, as a centerpiece of my platform, not only like Medicare for all would be a given, like the government provided healthcare insurance anyway would be a given. But I would also move to change the way capital and labor relate, right? And that would be super far left. But I'm also a big proponent of the Second Amendment and being able to own firearms, and protection, and also the fact that yeah, to some degree, to be able to fight against a tyrannical government. And that sounds sort of crazy, but I feel like there are ways, I don't want to say them out loud, but there are ways to, as a civilian, combat, especially with technological countermeasure. There is a way to equalize to some degree some of the capacity of the government against the civilian population, especially through technological countermeasures, right? So when that day comes, though, it's the question, the real risk is being discovered by the mass government police state that exists that we don't even realize. The people that work for any of the state information agencies, etc. The state is more than willing to expand its own power and capacity, and more than willing to borrow against the taxpayer capacity, which they do with, through the Federal Reserve, which they're doing right now, trillions and trillions of dollars. This is debt that is on the American ledger. Either we're going to pay it or not. I don't know. If we don't, that means we defaulted on our loans to either the rest of the world or to the Federal Reserve, which I don't know exactly what that means, but I don't know. Suppose we have a contract with the Federal Reserve, this private entity bank that prints money that we decide that, well, yeah, we'll pay that back, and they get to just print this money somehow, some way that we have to give them all back somehow, and they get this privilege somehow. I don't know how that works. Anyway, all right, so that's what we're talking about tonight. Superfan Chris says, good show tonight. Thank you all for an amazing show tonight, by the way. Got Seprock Beats taking us out. And by the way, next week, if you have some examples of some topics that you want to go over with me on the show, let me know. Nothing's been set yet. So just comment or whatever, get in touch. Let me know if you want to be on the show. You could Skype. You could also be on the live chat, as we've seen. Like, subscribe. There's Patreon, all that stuff. Look, I know the show's not of the best caliber and quality. We are growing. I say we, it's just me, but and you guys that are watching, we are growing. Tell your friends, get them involved. Let's talk about something controversial that's going to piss some people off. I don't think there's enough people getting pissed off in the comments section. And I think we could make that happen. Let's make that a goal. To really let's find something to really get heated about. Get some people who are, I don't know, that look, if you've been watching the show, or if you're watching this in the archive, find some people who are ideologically opposed to whatever I've been talking about, and let's talk about it. Especially if they're staunch capitalists. I think we haven't had a show that really explored what I'm talking about. I'm a very ardent critic of capitalism. So I'd like to articulate that and get a chance to counter with real deal Holyfield, real capitalist supporters who feel it in their heart. So that way you know that I'm not just making up these counter arguments and trying to make them look bad. I can actually make them look bad in real life. And I'm not trying to make them look bad. It's just going to happen by accident, just because what I say makes sense, because I thought it through and I presented it to people on purpose to strengthen it. It is calloused. It has a shielding of like of a armor. So let's bring them on and see what they have to say. Most of them have been too afraid. Libertarians are too afraid. These guys are too afraid to battle. I am here to battle. Cat's not my name says, "Come at me, bro." Okay, let's do it. If you want to battle about capitalism, now I'm not talking about markets. I do believe in the market, free market. I don't believe in government centralized control of markets. However, I'm talking about the relationship between the person with capital buying stuff and then hiring a bunch of people to work the stuff. Instead of that being a rental arrangement, it should be a partnership arrangement. It's my argument. So it becomes sort of a little bit different than possibly what people have been used to as far as capitalism and socialism discussions, because we're talking about sort of a different context here. But that all has to do with material reality, the meaning, the reality we all share and live in, and that's what I'm talking about. So ideologically, we may be thinking one way or another. Capitalism does this, socialism does this, whatever. But a lot of times that ideology has baggage that I think we have to shed in order to really be able to talk about what the fuck is going on, why our brothers and sisters are struggling, why are people committing suicide, why do they hate their lives, why are people so nihilistic, why is it that certain people are in control of the world and they don't give a fuck about the world and they are in control of it. Hey, I think I'm gonna fuck this up, but basically the Tao says if you love the world as you love yourself, then you are like qualified, or you can rule the world, not rule the world, but I don't know, basically that you are fit to rule the world, basically. If you love the world as you love yourself, right? And then something, if you value the world as you value yourself, then I can't remember, look it up. The Tao, start typing that part in, you'll see. Um, and it sort of makes sense, basically, that you see the world as more valuable or as valuable as your own being. And really the passage before that is to think about what makes you afraid of something. A lot of times it's our physical body, fear or of harm or loss of our physical body. And the weird passage in the Tao talks about not basically not being afraid of that physical body. and not and basically as if you don't have it at all. How would you live your life if you didn't have a physical body? What would you not be afraid of? Weird questions. I don't know. Some people might jump off a cliff and fly and do weird shit. That I don't think that's where Lao Tzu was trying to go with this. So whatever. You can talk about that. Kat, if you want to battle about something, let's get the battle set up. I'm down. And let's, I think you work in finance or related. If you know some folks that want to battle in that arena, get them to tune into the show and battle it out because I'm here and waiting. All right. Peace out. Get if you know anybody that by the way, if you know anybody that wants to do a live be live producer or something for this, by all means get them here, but to get them in contact with me. All right, I'm out. Peace out. Another episode. See you next week. Peace.